So what we're going to be talking about in this very last section of solving square roots is what is called order of operations, or we're going to be using order of operations to solve equations with squares. So an equation with a square, that looks like this. X squared equals 16, and that's it. All you need to see is there's a square in it right there, x squared. So we're going to be solving those. In other words, we're going to find out what x equals. Okay? But before we do that, we have to first learn about PEMDAS. PEMDAS is your order of operations. It's PEMDAS. The P stands for parentheses, the E for exponents, like the 2 there. M stands for multiply, so the times sign. D stands for divide, division. A stands for add. S stands for subtract. So this is the order in which you should do operations. So for example, let's say you have something like this. You have 2 plus 3 squared minus 5. And this part right here, that's divided by 2. So we're looking at this equation. What PEMDAS tells us is to first do what's in the parentheses. So that means add the 2 and the 3. That's 5. Then keep everything else the same. So I didn't touch anything else. I just added what was in the parentheses. Next it says do the exponents, the E. So 5 squared. That is 25. I keep everything else the same. Then it says do your multiplication or do your division. It doesn't matter what order you do these. So I have division, so I'm going to do that right now. 25 divided by 2, let's see, that would be 12.5. And then I keep that minus 5. And lastly, I have to do subtraction. Addition and subtraction, the A and the S. I don't have any addition, so I do subtraction. So 12.5 minus 5, let's see, that would be 7.5. So here's our answer. And we obtain that by following our order of operations. Order of operations. Okay? So this is a note that you should write down in your notebooks. Order of operations is PEMDAS. Please eat marshmallows during a storm. That's one way to remember it if you'd like. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do PEMDAS backwards in order to solve equations like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my piece of paper here, and I'm just going to write PEMDAS, but I'm going to do it backwards. So S-A-D-M-E-P. So again, minus, add, divide, multiply, exponents, and parentheses. Okay, so this is what we're going to do first. So let's pull up a quadratic equation. X squared equals 16. We want to find what x equals. So this is our goal. X equals something. We want to figure out what. So we work backwards with PEMDAS. Do we have any subtraction? Nope, none going on. Addition? Same thing, nothing. Division? Nope. Multiplication? Nope. Exponents? Yeah, we have some exponents. So how do we undo the square? Well, that's simply square root. So I'm going to square root both sides to get rid of the square. So we have x equals the square root of 16. Now this brings back your prior knowledge of our last couple days. How do you find out the square root of 16? Well, thankfully, square root of 16, that's a perfect square. So it's going to be 4. However, we're going to do plus or minus 4. So the answer could be plus 4 or the answer could be minus 4. The reason being, if I take 4 times 4, that equals 16 on our calculators. If I also take negative 4 times negative 4, it also equals 16. So when we do square roots, we have to have that plus and minus because it could be a negative times a negative, and it's still going to be that same positive. Or we could have a positive times a positive, and it's going to be that same positive under the radical. So we have to have the plus or minus right there. Okay? How about we do another example over here? One with a little more meat to it. Let's do 3x squared equals 96. All right? So first, start with PEMDAS backwards. Is there any subtraction? Nope. Any addition? Nope. Division? Nope. Multiplication? Yeah, right here. 3 times x squared. That's some multiplication. So we have to undo the multiplication. To undo, we do the opposite of the operation. So multiplication, the opposite of multiplication, is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So this right side reduces to just x squared. And this side over here reduces to 32. Okay? Lastly, we did our multiplication. Now we move on to the e exponents. Do we have exponents? Yeah, we do. We have it right here. X squared. So to get rid of the exponents, we square root both sides. The square root cancels with the square, so we're left with x on this side, just like we want. Remember, our goal is to get x equal to something. And over here, we have plus or minus the square root of 32. So what's the square root of 32? Well, that's not a perfect square, so we actually have to do some work. So we're going to write plus or minus still. What times what equals 32? Well, 16 times 2 equals 32. So I'm going to write the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. I'm keeping my plus or minus. What's the square root of 16? Well, thankfully it's a perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. And the square root of 2, can you do anything with that? No, not really, so I'm just going to keep it right there. And that's all there is to it. Our answer, I'm going to write a little bit clearly, is plus or minus 4 square roots of 2. So we're working through this SADMEP. We're just working in order through that. So not too difficult, but it takes a while to get used to. So if you need some more help, refer back to these videos when working on your homework. So again, we started out with 3x squared equals 96. That was our starting problem. And we ended with our answer, plus or minus 4 square roots of 2. Over here, we began with x squared equals 16. And we ended with x equals plus or minus 4. All right? This is solving equations with squares.